Welcome to the Life Science Success Podcast. My name is Don. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a consultant in life sciences. I help companies manage complexity and increase performance. Today, my guest is Naheed Kurji. Welcome, Naheed.
Thanks, Don. How you doing?
Very good. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What brought you into life sciences?
Yeah, absolutely. So Naheed Kurji, co-founder of Cyclica, a Toronto-based, we refer to ourselves as a neo-biotech company, a biotech company at the scale and speed of AI to advance the largest, most robust portfolio of drug discovery programs in the industry. And so we're really trying to push the envelope on what we can do with new technology. A little bit about myself. My background is in a bunch of things, economics, organizational psychology, finance. But my passion has always been generally in the life sciences and specifically in neuroscience and neurobiology. I just elected not to go down the med school path. Uh, Halfway through studying for med school and going through the application process, I realized I want to do something.
Diverted and want to do something else.
I wanted to get into business.
Yeah.
And so I did a circuitous path. And about 9 years ago, my co-founder invited me to join him as his CFO and kind of build the back office and operations of the company. And about 6.5 years ago, coming up to 7 years ago, I took over as CEO. The last thing I'll say about myself, I don't like talking about myself. I love talking about the company. On behalf of Cyclica, I co-founded the Alliance for Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare, the AAIH, the largest organization of its kind globally that is essentially the convening body for anybody in the AI and healthcare space. Large pharma companies like Roche, Bayer, J&J, academic institutions like Tulane University, Johns Hopkins, the University of Toronto, and then hyper innovative biotech companies. I also sit on the board of three other biotech companies that we co-founded and the Ontario Bio Innovation Organization, OBIO in Ontario.
Wow. I mean, the idea of having an alliance with regards to artificial intelligence is so, I think, needed just from the standpoint of one sort of understanding and standards and lots of the directions that, I'm sure that you guys get pulled in as well.
It's such a hairy space because artificial intelligence, I think from a behavioral standpoint, artificial intelligence is so poorly understood.
Mhm.
It's highly esoteric. And as a result, people don't really know how to interact with it. And when they don't know how to interact with something, they try to bucket it and say it is this.
Right.
But it's really quite complex. And so what we're doing at the AIH is, this is not AIH language, this is Naheed language, is demystifying AI in healthcare and focusing on kind of three specific pillars. One, we have a data working group. So data is very important within anything to do with AI, machine learning, deep learning. So how do we think about data in our space? How do we share that data? How do we think about data as part of a business model? Second one is a regulatory working group. So standards across both, but then also how to engage with the FDA, EMA, Health Canada, other big regulatory bodies on how they should be considering and evaluating companies that are advancing diagnostic tools, therapeutics, et cetera, that are not classically done, don't fit the classical framework. And then the last one, which I'm very passionate about, is education. How does HI, human intelligence plus AI, meaningfully impact patient health?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because there's so many companies that touch artificial intelligence or use artificial intelligence. I mean, I'm helping right now a few companies that are working on diagnostics, and of course, they use bioinformatics platforms, which in part is AI in a lot of cases to try and decision like which samples should they take more responsibility for, and which samples don't necessarily fit the diagnostic that they have. So
Yeah. And I think the whole world of computational X has now been captured under the umbrella of AI. I do believe that's a strong limitation. Computational biophysics has existed for 40 years. Bioinformatics has existed for 30 years. And so under that definition, AI is not new.
mm,
But I think it comes back to what's the definition of intelligence? What's the definition of artificial intelligence? And the AIH put out a white paper in 2019 defining both those things. And I think it's a really interesting conversation to have because not everybody, even if they say they are an AI in X company, truly are not.
Right.
And I don't say that as arrogant or flippant. I think people who appreciate that it's not just a predictive tool, that a database is not an Excel spreadsheet, that making correlations isn't AI. How do you learn from the data? How do you continue to generate that data? How do you inform better models in an automated way
Right.
to take out the human side as much as possible and allow humans to then do the next best thing and unlock their brilliance to apply it someplace else?
Yeah. Um, and so do you feel like your background really contributes at all in terms of where you wound up overall, either from the business side or the AI side? I mean, how does that work into
I love that question. And I like that none of these questions were pre-planned. And so not many people ask me that question, though I will say, I believe I'm the dimmest bulb in any room when it comes to any bioinnovation. While I'm very passionate about it, I don't have a PhD in medicinal chemistry or structural biology. I don't have an MSc in computer science, and I had to learn coding just to empathize with the complexities of the actual work that my team was doing. So for the longest time, I'm like somebody with a background in organizational psychology, economics, behavioral economics, and finance running a biotech company. And so, yeah, there is a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. And I had this imposter syndrome for when I took over as CEO. But I think that changed about 18 months ago when I realized that it's not just about scientific innovation.
right?
It's about understanding the problem,
Hmm.
empathize with the complexities of that problem, and then how do you affect behavioral change in the way in which technology is adopted? And I'm a behaviorist at the end of my day. And so thinking about innovation, thinking about technology development, adoption, marketing, storytelling. And so I think I can lend some expertise here and there. I know where I'm not strong, but I also know where I'm very passionate.
Like, I think it's interesting, right? So we're doing this interview as a part of, Bio from the Bayou, and I just finished a panel. Actually, we were having a similar discussion about the same sort of thing about, what is it that makes a good leader, overall, and what is it that people look for in terms of working with somebody. And to me, it's the best CEOs that I've seen in life sciences are not ones that are brilliant about the science. They're absolutely brilliant in terms of leveraging the skills of their team. And so, to me, that's the interplay that I think can be a challenge, especially whenever you're brilliant in the area that you're in. It's probably hard to kind of give up the steering wheel a little bit and let somebody else go answer the questions.
Yeah, I think it's a cogent explanation to categorize what makes one successful or one more challenged. I've come to realize it's not a trade-off, that there are some really good, deep scientists who are very good leaders and business people, but also appreciate that they need to surround themselves with maybe other folks that have that deep business domain expertise.
Mhm.
And then there are other folks who are more business focused, and the successful business people will have an appreciation and the complexity of the science, but then surround themselves. And then there are some that just spike in both and they're great overall. I'd say the distribution of the latter of like being really good in science, really good in business development, really good in finance. I think it's probably a small percentage of folks. I would not say I'm one of them. I'd say I'm strong in business. I'm strong in like appreciating my team, the culture, and that for them to be innovating at the intersection of biology, chemistry, compute, building a new business model, trying to push down doors and be a juggernaut to kind of the status quo, I need to provide them with a forum where they have meaning in the work that they do. And so ultimately, I'm a dreamer. I set the vision. The team then goes and executes. I have the best team in the world. And I'm there just to provide direction and insight as to why they're doing what they're doing.
So a couple more questions about your company. So do you primarily work with one part of the industry versus the other?
Yeah. So the industry is broken up into discovery of, and I'd say anything pre-human, and then development, clinical trials, human development, and then marketing would be kind of thereafter. We are in the drug discovery space. That's the lane that we swim in. We believe we're excellent drug hunters. We don't have the infrastructure, nor do we aspire to develop molecules in clinical trials. We think pharma does that fairly well. Biopharma does that really well. And it's a different expertise, different data, different technologies, different capabilities. And so in discovery, our entire model is let's go unlock the potential of the protein universe to discover the medicines of tomorrow. And so we flip the problem on its head compared to other companies in our space where it's not just working on what's well studied, what's well understood, and making incremental innovation in this like very congested lake of protein targets that are biologically linked and relevant and everybody's interested in. That's only 7% of the opportunity. The other 93% of the protein universe is untapped.
Mhm.
So we zoomed out and we created a deep learning model that allows us to explore, unlock that protein universe, design new chemistry, create new starting points, and probe targets that may be of interest to the scientific community, but they don't have the technologies to actually go do it. And so our entire model, if you want to think about it, is to colonize the protein universe with chemistry. And, with, I'd say, 1/10 the amount of capital than our peers have raised, we have a pipeline that rivals all of them. About 62 programs in our pipeline, some that will be entering the clinic over the next few quarters. And the model works and it's now ready to scale. So we know our lane, drug discovery.
Yeah.
Let's create that pipeline that pharma is desperately looking to acquire in. And instead of going to hundreds of companies, come to one.
Okay. And then my question related to Bio and the Bayou. So what brings you here? What do you hope to gain out of the conference?
Great innovation, basic research happens everywhere. Most people will center on the coasts, the Bostons, the New Yorks, the San Francisco, San Diego, Beltway. We have an academic partnership program. We work with academic institutions and strong basic biological research at those institutions, and then we translate that into drug discovery programs. So here in Louisiana, New Orleans, you have some excellent institutions like Tulane, LSU. In and around, you have, University of Kentucky, you have University, Missouri University, you have a bunch of institutions that really good science is often overlooked.
Yeah.
That's where we invest. And so we're forming and we work with all those institutions and many others to translate that research into viable drug discovery programs that we then push to commercialization. So coming here, telling that story, shaking hands, meeting the people that over the past 2 years we just haven't been able to. It's just been a blessing.
Excellent. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for being a guest on the Life Science Success podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.